Imagine stepping into what should have been a joyful celebration, only to feel the sharp sting of being dismissed before you even say a word. That's exactly how my evening began. I arrived at my brother's engagement party already sensing I didn't quite fit. Crystal glasses chimed softly, gentle music filled the space, and the scent of expensive perfumes lingered everywhere. Then I overheard her, the bride-to-be, leaning close to her friends and murmuring, just loud enough for me to catch, that the small-town nobody had finally shown up. Laughter erupted around her. My heart squeezed tight, but I stayed composed. Not one of them realized this elegant venue belonged to me, or that the night was about to take a dramatic turn far beyond simple toasts. Before I dive into what unfolded next, hit that like button and drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from, and have you ever been quietly overlooked or underestimated? Because what followed that cruel whisper reshaped my entire world forever. My name is Harper Reed. I'm 30 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've mastered the art of staying in the background. I speak gently, listen far more than I contribute, and dress in understated outfits that reveal nothing about my life. This isn't from a lack of self-assurance. It's a lesson I learned young. Sometimes, being underestimated offers the greatest protection. I was raised in a quiet town called Willow Creek, where gossip traveled faster than the wind and everyone knew each other's secrets. My older brother, Jackson, was the golden child. Teachers adored him, neighbors celebrated him, and our mother, Evelyn, centered her entire sense of pride around his every success, never intending to wound me, yet the hurt came anyway. At family dinners, his accomplishments dominated the conversation, while mine earned only polite smiles like faint echoes in the room. The one person who truly recognized my worth was my grandmother. She had this special habit of holding my hand just a moment longer, as if anchoring me to something solid in a shifting world. As a teenager, she confided that I was a builder, not of structures or objects, but of security and strength. She promised me a cherished family heirloom necklace, handed down through generations of women in our line. She insisted it would belong to me someday because I would need its quiet reminder more than anyone else. At 18, I left home with nothing but a suitcase and no farewell gathering. I took any job available, beginning at the lowest rung in the hospitality world. Endless shifts, aching feet, solitary late-night meals from takeout containers. Slowly, I climbed higher. I absorbed every detail of how the industry functioned. I saved diligently, invested wisely, and kept everything private from my family. They never inquired anyway. For years, I quietly sent support back home, covering expenses, fixing homes, paying medical bills, all anonymously. I sought no recognition. I simply wanted them to thrive. So when the invitation to Jackson's engagement party arrived as an afterthought, almost reluctantly, I decided to attend anyway. A small part of me still clung to hope that things might feel different, that this time I'd step into the room and truly belong. Yet standing in that grand ballroom, watching my mother glow beside Jackson and his fiancée, the truth hit hard. I remained the overlooked shadow. I just hadn't fully accepted it until then. I tried to blend into the room's edges, a talent you hone when you grow up feeling merely tolerated, never truly embraced. I lingered near a high-top table, clutching a chilled glass, observing the celebration swirl around me as if I were invisible. My mother glided from one cluster of guests to another, her smile overly bright, repeating the same glowing tales about Jackson. Every story began with his name. When she finally spotted me, her expression tightened. Her gaze swept down my jeans and boots, then lifted to my face. She leaned close and asked, in a hushed but pointed tone, if I'd thought about dressing more suitably. She emphasized that Jackson's fiancé came from a sophisticated background, delivering the word like a gentle reprimand. I explained I had come directly from work. She let out that familiar weary sigh she'd used my entire life, then turned away before I could finish speaking. That's when I noticed it. The necklace. It lay gracefully against the fiancé's collarbone, sparkling with every laugh. The fine chain, the delicate pendant, my grandmother's heirloom, the very one she promised me in a hospital room, heavy with the smell of disinfectant and fading dreams. My stomach plummeted, leaving me lightheaded. I watched the fiancé glide through the crowd, elegant and poised, receiving praise as though it were her birthright. The necklace appeared misplaced on her, not because it clashed with her beauty, but because it had never been meant for her. I was still frozen when she spotted me. She approached with a smile that stayed surface level, resting a light hand on my arm as though we shared some deep bond. She suggested we step aside for a private chat. Once out of hearing range, her warmth evaporated. She revealed she knew everything about the money I'd sent home, about my simple lifestyle. She questioned why someone like me continued supporting people who never truly valued me. Then she supplied her own answer. It must be because I was desperate to feel important. Her tone remained soft and measured, crafted to wound deeply without any visible scar. She concluded by warning that after marrying Jackson, it would be wiser for me to maintain distance. Fewer complications, she said, patting my arm before returning to the festivities. My grandmother's necklace glimmered against her skin like a stolen treasure. I stood motionless. No tears came. No outburst followed. A quiet resolve settled inside me. The part of my heart that had stubbornly hoped this family would one day choose me finally closed its door forever. In that profound stillness, a new clarity emerged. This evening wasn't merely awkward. It was perilous. I needed fresh air, not the perfumed kind circulating through crystal chandeliers and fake smiles. I slipped from the ballroom into the hallway, where thick carpet swallowed my steps and the distant was softened to a murmur. This section of the hotel felt comforting, familiar, under my control. It always steadied me. That's when voices drifted toward me. I paused instinctively. Near the service elevators, around the corner, stood Victor Langford on his phone, shoulders rigid, back to me. He didn't see me. He was too absorbed in a tense, hushed argument. I caught snippets, phrases like after the ceremony, cash situation, and we just need them convinced a bit longer. He listened, then uttered words that made my blood run cold. He referenced my family, not by name, but clearly enough their perceived security, their potential to provide support. He ended the call, smoothed his face into that practiced charm, and strode off. I lingered longer than wise, heart steady but thoughts racing. That conversation wasn't fear, it was strategy. I headed to the parking garage, slid into my car, engine off, concrete walls closing in like a safe cocoon. On my phone, I reviewed years of records, transfers, payments, mortgages, medical expenses, all handled silently. My family believed they were managing independently. Someone else apparently saw that illusion as an opening. The puzzle clicked together with chilling simplicity. The Langfords weren't interested in love, family, or Jackson. They sought access to what they assumed my family possessed. If that foundation proved false, the collapse would devastate everyone. I wasn't speculating anymore, I was certain. I messaged Lucas Grant, asking him to meet me at the service entrance. When he arrived, I kept details minimal. I didn't need to explain much. I requested discreet, thorough background checks on the Langfords. He nodded once and departed. Next, I phoned my attorney, Sophia. She picked up instantly. I told her I needed quick, solid options. I also reached out to Mia, a genius with figures who read spreadsheets like novels. I asked her to hunt for inconsistencies, anything that didn't align. I returned upstairs, outwardly serene, almost detached. The party carried on, melodies, chuckles, clinking glasses. But everything had fundamentally changed. This was no longer about personal slights or stolen jewelry. It was about preventing disaster from swallowing my family whole. And if exposing the truth required the most public stage imaginable, then that's what would happen. By the time I re-entered the ballroom, the evening had reached that delicate tipping point, everything appearing flawless right before it shattered. The music softened to a romantic hush. Lights dimmed into warm intimacy. A spoon tapped a glass, calling for speeches. Victor Langford advanced toward the small platform, champagne in hand, grinning as though the entire room revolved around him. His daughter stood beside Jackson, arm linked with his, my grandmother's necklace gleaming exactly where it didn't belong. My mother sat up front, radiating joy. oblivious that the foundation beneath her was crumbling. Lucas passed through my view and offered the tiniest nod. Mia's message arrived moments later. You were correct. It's even worse. Sophia followed with one line, all confirmed. You're good to proceed. No rush of victory swept over me, just deep, steady calm. Victor cleared his throat and launched into praise of family, trust, and the honor of uniting their lines. His tone rang with practiced assurance, honed from years of selling illusions. He lifted his glass toward Jackson and his fiancée, speaking of heritage and enduring futures. That was my moment. I texted Lucas one word, now. The screens behind the stage flickered. A few guests chuckled, assuming a minor glitch. Then the happy engagement photos dissolved, replaced by crisp, official documents on stark white backgrounds. The room hushed gradually, like a stadium wave falling silent. Victor's smile locked in place. The display revealed clear financial overviews, names highlighted, figures stark, funds routed to places they never should have gone. More pages followed. Similar schemes in other states, patterns repeating. Whispers grew as people leaned in, piecing it together. Victor stumbled over the microphone, insisting it was an error, a technical problem. He gestured wildly toward the control booth. No one responded. The next slide appeared, an old photo of his daughter under a different name, younger, altered appearance. She froze, color draining from her face as if life had been switched off. Her mother reached for Victor's arm, whispering frantically, but escape was impossible. The evidence kept scrolling, reports, summaries, trails clear to anyone willing to see. Jackson turned to his fiancée, confusion etched deep. He searched her eyes for comfort and found emptiness. My mother glanced between them. Her joy vanished, hands clenched white-knuckled in her lap. I stepped forward, the echo of my boots on marble slicing the silence. Voices trailed off midward. Heads swiveled. Hundreds of eyes finally landed on me, some recognizing me for the first time that night. Lucas's calm voice filled the speakers, introducing me not as a mere attendee, but as the owner of the hotel surrounding them. I took the microphone gently from Victor's limp hand. He offered no resistance. I'm sorry to interrupt, I said, voice steady and clear. But I believe everyone here deserves to understand exactly what they're toasting tonight. His daughter found her words at last. She accused me of fabrication, of jealousy, of sabotaging her joy because I couldn't bear staying on the fringes. Her attack came rapid, cutting, frantic. I didn't debate. I didn't raise my tone. I simply pointed to the screens. These documents have been examined by experts, I explained. They reveal a consistent pattern, collecting funds under false promises, shifting them through hidden channels, then leaving others to face the aftermath. Names may vary. The method stays identical. Victor attempted to retreat. Security stepped in smoothly, blocking his path. His wife began weeping, claiming misunderstanding, insisting explanations existed. That's precisely why this is happening, I replied softly. The rear door swung open. A woman in a dark suit entered, badge gleaming, her presence commanding instant attention. She moved without haste. She didn't need to. 2 colleagues followed. She identified herself and stated plainly that authorities were actively investigating matters tied to the displayed information. She requested Victor and his wife to accompany her. Victor's polished facade crumbled before our eyes. Shoulders dropped. Voice faltered. He tried saying my name like a desperate appeal. The daughter turned to Jackson, clutching his arm tighter. She pleaded for belief, for him to recall their shared moments, not to let his sister destroy it all. Her voice cracked, raw, terrified. Jackson held her gaze for a long, agonizing beat. Then he gently pulled away. I don't know who you really are, he said quietly. I don't think I ever truly did. Something inside her broke. She screamed that I'd ruined everything, that I was exactly this small-town nobody she'd labeled me. She lunged forward, but security intercepted her effortlessly. As they let her out, the necklace slipped from her neck and struck the floor with a resonant chime that echoed far louder than its size. The room felt strangely empty once they were gone. I lifted the microphone once more. The meal is covered, I announced. The bar remains open. Stay if you wish, or go as you please. A ripple of uneasy laughter spread. The DJ paused, then resumed music, gentler now. I approached my mother and showed her my phone. Years of transfers, payments, support she'd always attributed elsewhere. She stared at the screen, then at me, her face collapsing inward with realization. Jackson found me by the bar later. He stood silent at first. When he spoke, it was simple and sincere. I'm sorry. I held my grandmother's necklace in my hand, its familiar weight grounding me once more. The gathering didn't conclude with cheers or ovations. It ended with raw honesty, and I discovered that carried far greater power. The weeks that followed felt calmer, as though the world had finally released a breath held too long. Investigations proceeded steadily, with statements, discussions, and measured words. Consequences arrived naturally, the way they do when truth stands unfiltered. Jackson visited a few days later. No defenses, no grand gestures. He seemed diminished, stripped of the unwavering confidence he'd always worn. He confessed to replaying every warning sign he'd dismissed. I told him recovery begins not with justifications, but with truly hearing others. He nodded, as if hearing the idea for the first time. My mother called afterward. Her voice lacked its usual command. It carried real gravity. She said she hadn't realized. I replied that ignorance isn't the same as innocence. I displayed the records again, the quiet support I provided for years, staying unseen so no one would feel obligated. She wept softly, not seeking absolution, but because a long-sealed part of her had finally cracked open. The necklace returned to me without fanfare. I didn't wear it immediately. I simply held it, letting the cool metal rest in my palm like a long-delayed promise fulfilled. We haven't repaired every fracture. Far from it. But the pretending has ended, and that shift matters more than any apology ever could. Some conclusions aren't tidy. They're truthful. And truth, I've come to understand, marks the first genuine path to healing. A few weeks later, I hosted a modest breakfast at the hotel. A young woman from a rural community sat at the table, visibly nervous, uncertain if she fit in. I ensured she knew she did. Watching her gradually open up, absorb new ideas, and ease into comfort reminded me why I once chose silence and why I no longer have to. If you've ever been dismissed, undervalued, or made to feel insignificant by those closest to you, please know you're not alone. Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story touched you, subscribe so you won't miss what's coming next. Your voice matters more than you might realize.